Hello everybody, welcome to the artclasses.com. Today I am going to do some paintover for my Patreon. So it's going to be two pieces. This one's just going to be quick tips and how to use the reference because this one paint using the reference, and I'll give you some tip and trick on the later part of the video. But this one is basically a character design, so I'm doing some paintover, correcting the lighting and surrounding area. It's not going to be perfect, but we'll get a point across. And if you are interested in getting a feedback or paintover, you can become my Patreon at patreon.com/Xia Taptara. You can take class with me at theartclasses.com and one-on-one or group class. And you can also post it on Twitter, post your artwork there, and hashtag theartclassescritique. All right, now let's get started. Alright, so this one is a character design from one of the Patreon. So the character looks good. I just correct a little bit of proportion on the legs and how the light would hit certain area, surface and all that. You kind of have that, but then some of these, that one need to go into the angle, right? So basically, if you think about it, these legs coming forward, and you're gonna have the light, and then it's gonna go a little minus Z space. So it's just going to have a little, it's gonna get darker as it goes, and it's going to the darkest corner. So it's not super perfect, but the paintover, I mean, but it's get the point across. And in here I add a little shadow cast from that hair, and this arm over here, it's supposed to angle back a little, so it's got some shadow, and this one's coming forward and this one is facing up, that one's facing away. So that's why you got the value arrangement of what I have over here to break it down. So it's going to be about 20-25 minutes paintover, and well, so that's the major light problem and a little bit of rendering. The legs, I just fix it a little bit, move the knees down a bit, and then kind of add a little muscle around there. So the outer calves are gonna always be higher than the lower calves, and then the knee on top, you don't really need to paint the kneecap. On the bottom, usually cast a shadow because the light gonna hit from up above, right? So you don't need to cast the shadow on top as much. Cute design and nice color. There's a couple of things that we need to fix. So first, I'm going to start fixing the legs, basically. All right. I'm just gonna fix the proportion first. Let's try to fix, I think the knee should be a little lower, so I'm gonna try to draw it out first. So I'm gonna draw the hips and then the legs there. So the knee should be down a bit, and the outer calves is higher and lower calves is a little bit lower. And I'm gonna try to see, it's not gonna be super perfect. I would put it on a different pose. If I have time, I'll probably move the legs out a little bit, but since we don't have much time, just gonna leave it over there. But the pose looks nice, and then the body need to kind of twist in and out a little bit. So the torso would kind of moving a little toward the left side of the screen, and then the pelvis would be a little bit toward the right side, because you kind of twist the body, and as your hips will come, her right hip will come forward, and then her right shoulder will go slightly backward, since she's arming, her upper arms moving a little to the side and backward. So now I'm just gonna clean up this, move the knees down, and I'm gonna clean up the value, and there should not be since your legs coming forward, there should not be the shadow right on top in between your skirt and your legs, because if your skirt is really short, then it would lay on top of your legs, so that would be just a short line. um, there shouldn't be that much shadow in it. The shadow would kind of go wider as it go to the side. Now I'm fixing the kneecap, and I'm gonna clean up the skin on the other legs a little bit. All right, and I'm just using, basically, don't use too much soft brush, because it's gonna muddle everything, and you're not gonna have a nice definition of light and shadow. Try to start out with hard edge, and now I'm gonna add a little muscle on the inner thigh. Oops. Your femur bones, or your thigh bone, the bone in your thigh is curved, so you kind of have that curve, and on the inner thigh you have another muscle on the inside of it. So, and the skin, it's usually lighter as it closer to the middle part of the body, and as it come on the outside of the limbs, it's gonna be a little more red or darker. And now I'm gonna use soft brush to kind of clean up in between the edges. If the edges are soft, which is if the surrounding area has a lot of curve and smooth curve, then most likely it's going to be soft edge. But sometime when the light hit a certain angle, it's going to create this hard line between light and shadow, like on the side of her thigh. That will create a hard line between the front and the side of your thigh, so that will create the hard edge. And now I'm trying to give your leg another muscle on the inner thigh, and then that will be the hard edge on the side of the leg. I'm going to soften it up a little bit, but it will be slightly harder edge. On the kneecap, it will be harder edge, so that you can see the form a little better. Sometimes you're going to have to compromise on some other part, like, you know, if you want to enhance a certain feature of the body, then you're gonna have to create the harder edge. And sometimes if you want to soften a certain area, make it smoother, then you're gonna create soft. So I'm just gonna create the harder edge around the shin area. There you go, slightly. And then on that side of the legs, it should be there should be that dark of a shadow, unless your leg is pressed together, then you're gonna have like a really dark shadow. But if it's not pressed together, then it should have. Now I'm gonna create a inner thigh, so it shouldn't be that dark. It shouldn't cast the shadow a certain way. It should just kind of, because if the object is out in the open, it should have enough light to give it a natural state. There's nothing blocking it. Unless there's something blocking it totally, then it should have like a dark line. So there, I'm going to create some shadow in the area. That is occlusion shadow, assuming the upper part of your leg or your thighs are kind of closer together, and as it go further out, the shadow will be thinner. I mean, as it go further out, the shadow will be wider and lighter. Now I'm going to fix the shoe a little bit, and you look at the plane, the top part of the shoe will be light, and on the side will be dark. So most of the time, if your shoe is dark and it is leather, it's not going to have that much light. It's just going to be a lot of dark area. But this, I'm just going to paint on the plane, and assuming your shoes are kind of black or dark gray, so you see that there's a light on top a little bit there. And if you are interested, you can critique and paint over. You can go to my Patreon at patreon.com/Xia Taptara. But if you really want to improve, then you can join my live class, either one-on-one or group class. It doesn't matter. Go to the artclasses.com, then you register there. All right, now I'm gonna fix certain area of the legs a little bit. Yeah, you want the skin to be like super smooth and nice. You're gonna have to spend some time on it. I'm just gonna paint really quick and just trying to get the point across here. It doesn't have to be super duper dark, and you don't always have to use soft brush. Try to get the hard edge first. And now the plane on the side that is facing the other way, it's so on the around when the light curve it will be darker. The plane facing the side, only the plane that facing front is going to be lighter. So now I'm painting another plane and trying to make the plane softer. So just think of the plane, moving around the surface. And kneecap. All right. Next part, we're gonna start getting her dress. I'm gonna simplify it. Simplify it first, and then the simpler it is, the easier you can see the light. So I'm just gonna use two-tone of the purple first, and then if I needed to add more like lighter or darker value depending on the material of the object. If the object has a lot of higher specular level, then you're going to need a more contrast. But if the object is like cotton or something, then usually fabric doesn't have a lot of specular level, but metal do have a high level of specular, and so it has a lot of contrast. And I'm starting to lose my voice for no reason. All right, now I'm adding the light. So if you see the shadow and the light on her legs and the shadow on the skirt kind of match, and now I noticed that you're trying to make the body fit. I mean the dress kind of skin tight sort of fit the body. So I'm going to give some light and shadow onto her, the shape of her body a little more. So there will be like, that's her abdominal area, lower abdominal. You're going to see the light, and as it goes down to the crotch area, it's going to be a little bit of shadow. So just kind of follow whatever you already have. And light on the legs, the other side is flat, and as it goes away from the front leg to the back leg, it's going to get slightly darker. Basically, I'm going to add a little lighter value on to the front leg. That will be a bit of a kind of like a highlight, but not really. But for the most part, I'm going to keep this dress fairly low specular level. If you want it high, you want to make it silk, then it's going to be a little more complicated. I'm going to have to spend a little more time trying to convey the material. And now, fixing the stomach area a little bit. Now I'm going to go to the torso and just flatten it again. And usually on the chest, if you have a really tight dress, it won't totally. And now I'm going to do the belt, so a dark pink and light pink. What I'm saying is not going to totally like fit the frame of your chest area as much, and you're going to see top light and shadow, so it won't go into the middle. You won't see the shape of the breast totally, right? Because the fabric you see top part, light part, is break it down to plain. It's easier. And now I'm gonna make the pink into the light and dark, simplify it slightly, and the shadow would match all around, but since it's still on the same surface area, right? So the shadow and light will match. unless there will be offset if if some part of the plane is higher and some part of the plane is lower. So that's when the shadow will change the shape, and it will be either thinner or thicker shadow depending on how much of the offset you have in between the surface area. But now it's on the same surface, so the light and shadow will be pretty much even. Now we're going to add some light onto the chest area there. The light will hit on that plane all the way up to pretty much the plane will change when it go up to your shoulder or your collarbone, and then the value will change again. And then on the lower part of your, like right below your chest, if your chest is your breast, it's going to cast some shadow, and that's going to drag the fabric along with it. Now we're going to have some folding, and the folding will go to the sides, and it will be pulled, and it will be pulled from under your breast to your shoulder and your arm. So that will create a folding. Folding usually happen on the joints, and that's create a lot of you can play with a lot of folding on the fabric. They are pretty fun. It could be time consuming, but it could make your, if you like to paint fabric, that's where it's at, just playing with the folding. The folding direction depends on, you have to think about, notice how your body move, and notice where the fabric got pulled from, where the origin of the tie, and where is the how big is the piece of the fabric, or how restricted the fabric is. So there's a lot of things involved, but usually the folding will happen on the joints. If you notice, like on your elbow, on your armpit, on your knees, on your ankle, and on your wrist. So that's where the typical fold on the clothing are. And also along your belt, if you put your shirt, tuck in your shirt or something, then that will be a folding, but the folding will be more like a vertical fold. Now I'm gonna add some shadow, since that arm gonna likely moving slightly backward, so it's gonna be slightly darker. It's moving away from the light, right? Because it's angled away from the light. Your chest is facing directly up to the light source, assuming the light source is we are doing a uniform lighting, so it's basically top, middle, a little off to the right, or a little off to the left, but most likely it's still in the middle. And now the top part of the forearm, that part will facing directly, the light will hit it directly on top. So there. Then I'm going to add a little bit of, so you can see kind of 2 to 3 value. Simplify it a little more. All right, and now I'm going to add some folding. I'm going to change the stitch line to make it closer to the neck, so make it look a little more interesting rather than have it straight up, and kind of make her shoulder look a little smaller also, like the way fashion design goes. Sometimes when they design certain things, they try to make enhance, accentuate the female form. Now I'm gonna flatten the other sleeve, and I'm gonna add some lighting on top. Make the stitch line first there. Light on that top part, and then in the middle part there probably won't be that much light, but as it come down to the bottom, then your fabric start to flare out. So when the fabric start to flare out, then it's creating this faux flare usually. Then you have a lighter surface there. It's kind of like if you look at the bell bottom skirt or skirt and the skirt that flare out, it will have like the same similar lighting. All right, now I'm gonna clean up the bell a little bit. You can see the shadow line match, and now I'm gonna add lighter part of the white. Well, I'm gonna chip the hue a little bit since it's look too purple. I'm gonna shift it, move it to a little bit toward the blue and the green to make the color pop, but it's gonna be desaturated a lot. All right, now the lighter part and then the darker part. And the way you selecting lighter value and darker value, you have to know what amount of value to select from. It's a lot of time if you have a full spectrum is halfway to black, from light to shadow, and then the midway is like halfway in between that again. So but if you painting in the control or limited range of value, then you're gonna have to choose the value according to the section of whatever you are painting. So just assuming on the certain spectrum of the brightness and try to keep it in between maybe 50, range of 50 instead of 100%, or range of 60 instead of 100%, because you don't need that much. And if you want to know more on how to selecting color and value, you can either take my class or go to my Gumroad or QBrush or whatever, and then download beginner's package. That's gonna show you the foundation of rendering and how to render the correct way. And it's always good to know how much dark and how much light to use in a certain area. Like you can make an educated guess, right? So most of the time your work will turn out pretty consistent if you know exactly what value to use, or how much saturation you should be using, and how sometimes complementary color, you can't just okay, let's go complementary. There should be the balance in between saturation of one color and the other color will be a lot less saturated, or almost like desaturated, almost gray. Sometimes it works a lot better, but it depends on your preference. And you can take my class also, so just plugging it in right there, you get better for sure. All right, so now turn it on and off. So now you can see the form starting to come out, and now we're gonna add some yellow to enhance the contour. Light yellow on the light, and dark yellow on the dark. And again, if you want paintover or feedback, you can just go to my Patreon. All the links are down below. Or if you want to take chances, you can just go to Twitter and hashtag the art classes critique. And if I don't have anything on Patreon, then I'll just pick something from there and paint over, do quick critique or something. And as you notice, the light go with the light, and the dark will go with the dark shadow area. And pick the shadow, and then the midtone and shadow, and then as it come across the light, it will be the light again. So this, I'm not gonna like make it super duper refine, just get the point across and do as much as I can within half an hour. All right, now we are going to paint hair. So I'm gonna pick the color for the hair, like that will be the dark one and this will be the light one. It's still kind of purple, so I want it to be more of a gray rather. And just gonna paint it flat and make it simpler, and just having light and dark. Now we have the mid-tone. We're gonna paint a little bit of light there, and I'm not trying to get it too light in the beginning. I'm just trying to give it form. So that's like a, so you can see the form a little bit closer here. So now you can see the part that hit the light and the part that turning away from the light will be darker. So don't, when you paint hair, try to paint it in groups. Don't try to paint individual hair. You can add individual hair later, but first you've got to find a big form. And then if you really want to add like hair strand in there, which you don't really need to most of the time, you can go in and paint. Once you have the value set up, then you will know what value to use in what area. But if you don't have the value set up in the form, like on the front here, what I'm trying to do is like look at the head as a whole, right? And then you see, oh, it's look like a cylinder. So in that area that go from front to back, it's round, and when the light hit, it's hit right in the middle. So you can have the light around that area more so in the middle, just kind of like you render the cylinder. So basically all these part of the body, you can use or base it from, you know, geometry, and use the geometry to apply whatever the light that will how the light affect the geometry, and apply that to whatever surface area that you have on to the model or onto your painting. Most of the time, or maybe not all the time, it will work just fine. And that's how you kind of break down the certain area, right? And sometimes you run into the complex area, then you can have to think about it a little more. And the more you practice, the more you think about it, you get better through time, and you get better faster if you take my class. So that's for real. All right, so I'm gonna add a little, what do you call that, tie, and something that the tip end of the hair tie. What do you call ponytail? It's not really. This is a pigtail or something in the front. Whatever, I don't really know how to call that. Just a little bow tie on the edge, almost to the end of it. So I gotta add occlusion shadow from the tie, because there'll be like some sort of folding of the hair or crease. That'll be the darker area, which sometimes really subtle and you can't really see it, but you need to put it there. And a little bit of highlight, because hair, the way hair works is hair is individual hair is translucent, right? So, and it has a very high specular level. Even if you have dark hair or light hair, from, you know, dark brown to blonde or something, it's as the specular level for hair is as high as metal. So sometimes you see, you know, people with blonde hair, they look like metal, because there's accumulation of this translucent object in the cylinder shape, a bunch of them. And the way you treat them is basically sort of like how you treat metal material, or pretty close. So the material for hair is has a high specular level, but for the darker hair, is you're gonna have a really strong highlight, and you're not gonna have, don't really have to render them as much. So this one's gonna be super quick. I'm running out of time here. All right, so actually that middle part should be kind of not too, should be slightly darker, but it should be lighter as it going downward toward the chest, because that one probably protruding out a little more than the midsection of that hairpiece. But And I'm gonna paint some red bow tie there a little bit. You can hardly see it, so I gotta make it a little lighter on some part and more highlight and dark. And you notice that I'm painting this at the full body size or kind of further out, because this is like still at the very beginning stage, right? It's not I'm not going in for the detail yet. I'm trying to find the overall form, and that's what you need to do before you start going in and add more detail onto your painting or drawing, whatever that you're trying to do next. Now cast shadow. So cast shadow on from the hair to the top part of the chest. This one's pretty simple because the light is coming from the top front, so it's just gonna be straight back. And more contour line on along the edge of her skirt. Lighter part, and then the mid-tone a little bit as the value shifts, and then on the other side, and then go to the shadow. Shadow area. So keep the light in the light and the shadow in the shadow area, and then you'll be fine. And make sure that they're all consistent throughout. And some hand and some cast shadow on her hand. I'm not gonna try to finish the hand. We're almost running out of time here, so all right. Okay, and we're gonna add some cast shadow. So as your legs go further out or going away from the skirt will start casting shadow, especially when its shape turns, right? And on the front part of her legs, the front is touching the fabric, so the shadow will be pretty thin. And as it separates out from the fabric, it will get wider, but lighter also. As it gets closer, the line might be thin, but it will be darker, and that's what causes the occlusion shadow. And then as it goes further out, it's going to be just the cast shadow, so it will be slightly lighter. Maybe a little too dark there. All right, I think this is pretty much it. Not sure what else. I'm not going to do anything to the face because I think the face kind of looks fine. It's stylized anyway. And even when you do face, that's going to be another half hour. That's a totally different subject entirely. But it looks cute enough, so we can get away with that. Alright, now I'm just going to add some shadow onto the head a little bit, because I mean, I can't just leave that flat. So that's going to be a quick rendering. Light and shadow, because it has to be kind of consistent. It's just going to be simple. A lot of time I can't stop painting. And some light there. And pick the white to be a contour lines to kind of make it consistent. Alright guys, well, thank you for watching, and this is pretty much it. And if you want feedback and paint over, you can either take my class. It will be private, and we'll meet on a weekly basis, either one-on-one or group class, video painting 102 or character design, it's on there, the artclass.com when you go there. But if you want just like once in a while, paint over, you can go to Patreon and I'll do a paint over like what I'm doing here, just fixing 1-2 things. And you can also try to I'll randomly select whoever, if there's no more Patreon image then or Patreon artwork, then I'll just go to Twitter and select from you guys. You guys do hashtag the art classes critique. So all information is below the video on under the whatever description. Alright guys, have a good rest of the day. Have a good weekend. I will see you, and don't forget to come to my live stream every Friday at noon Pacific time. Around that time I will start showing up, and you can download my premium tutorial on Gumroad, or you can go to CubeBrush and just type in my name or something. You find it. All the stuff is below the description. Thank you for watching guys. I will see you guys soon. Bye bye. Alright, so this one is a study from one of my Patreon. Everything looks good. The metal looks good, the lighting looks good. The only thing I see the problem is the proportion of the horse. So you look at from the knee to the chest and all the way out here is pretty long, right? And from here to there seems like you kind of a little too short, because you're gonna need that area for the legs, and the legs should be like way out there. So that is one tiny little problem. It's not a lot of problem here. And if you get the horse proportion kind of off, then it make the horse look a little too short. Maybe I'm just gonna select this whole thing. But overall, this piece looks good. If you're doing the study, proportion is also important. But should be about that, and the head should be maybe a bit bigger. Oops. Oh, and you flip the legs. So these legs coming forward. So I'm not sure what you're trying to do. Are you doing a study or you trying to change things here? Yeah, it should have like a gap there. So try to get the proportion right first, yes. And you should get the shadow, because if you have that lighting right, the shadow should go this way. So don't forget your shadow. So at the bottom it should have a little bit of shadow there. And this the front leg should be a bit above the ground. Then your head might be a little too tall there. Let me lower that a bit. Yeah, I don't see a lot of problem. You study is kind of hard to do the critique, because I'm not really sure what you like. You want to do it exactly like study, and critique usually the concept art is like, because if you have a sample, then you can just look at the sample and you can see what's wrong with it, right? So the critique is basically, critique and feedback is for if you don't know what it should look like, right? So you have me go in and critique and see if the lighting is right. But when you have uh, uh, you know the masterpiece or the study, I can't really do much to it because the sample is already there, and basically what you do, you try to make it look like uh, the sample here, and maybe you can practice on brushstroke or something like that. But for the most part, there's not much for me to do except look at the sample and then just tell you what. The color is a little bit odd because it's burgundy and you have like some sort of what is this color called? Kind of a little more orange. Uh, but I think they have the color for it in oil. In oil, you have like burn umber, burn sienna, burgundy or something. And you notice that there's a little bit of light there, right? And this, you could just flatten the lighting here. And the lighting on the top probably should be thinner. Well, I could just make a copy and leave it up. And the light over here on yellow should kind of match it. And if this is a good piece of reference, and that should be a bit higher, and that light should be up front, the other one should be but I guess you're trying to change it or something. If you want to change something from reference like the horse hoof, I wouldn't necessarily change the way the horse gallop. What I would change is probably the armor design. Like add some kind of different design on top of the armor instead, and use the light of the armor. But I would add more pieces there, maybe redesign it. You could add, like, for example, I'm just going to give you a really short example. You have the lighting there already, right? So what you can do is, say you want to add more, something like that. I wouldn't change the gallop of the horse because that, if you don't know how the horse move, you could make it look really wrong. And these are a little more flat there. You don't need a lot of light. And you have another one here, another one here. But for the most part, it's already look good. I wouldn't change it much. I would either use the lighting for reference and redesign the armor rather than changing the way the horse gallop and just the proportion of horse basically. So like I said, looks good. The shield might be a bit higher, or you could like redesign the shield totally, right? Or change the lens and make it the real lens, like an axe or something, like one of those. Try to make it like the real stuff, like something like that, and you make it flatter. So basically, it looks good. Yeah, nice rendering. Well done. Good job. Yeah, post another piece or something that has like more concept and try to change, alternate something. You can, if you don't really, if you're not comfortable with doing concept, kind of start modifying the existing rendering and then try to make it look better. And then eventually you'll be able to come up with your own stuff. But I would recommend before you paint, try to figure out what actually goes in there in your painting, like draw it out first or sketch it out, figure out everything. All right, well, good job, well done. And if you are interested in taking a class with me, I have now Digital Painting 102 and Character Design 101. And Digital Painting 102, you don't need to take 101. It's basically an environmental design class. Or you can take 5-week course and 8-week course. Then you can just go read review, or you can go check out student work on my website. Alright guys, well, hopefully this tutorial will help you guys if you guys are having problem with the Wacom and Windows 10. I will see you on Friday. Don't forget to go to my channel and click on the, well, here, set reminder, and then you will see me, it will send you an auto reminder to come to my live stream on Friday. Alright guys, well, have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.